What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Tuesday Track Talk podcast, episode number 42. We got the onboard cam with Legacy Motor Club and John Hunter Nemechek this week. So I'm your gas man, Cam.
I'm your jack man, Kellen.
I'm your tire changer, Cam.
And elbows up. We're going left and right on this episode. We got a lot to cover. I know we kind of had an unexpected break from the podcast. I know the old Jackman and Tire Changer put out an abbreviated episode that we just news that had to be covered. So we got about 2 weeks worth of racing tonight to discuss, and we're going to start going left and right at Chicago. But before we do, as we always do, what's new?
Saw a lot of racing last week. I was on vacation and I spent Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the racetrack last week. So
I was gonna say we were even gone on vacation, and I found a way to get the Slinger Nationals to fit in there. No, a good vacation. Stayed up way too late every single night.
Attaboy.
Ate way too much all of the time, and then you pretty much feel like shit the whole time.
Yep. Attaboy.
But no, it was good. It was just good to get away, good to spend time with family and kind of hang out. But yeah, made that Slinger trip. That was a good one. So found a way to balance the racing and family life together.
Yep. There you go. There you go.
So,
I
yeah.
also, as we're recording here, I got Lucas Oil on one corner of the screen. I got the World Outlaws at Attica Raceway for the Brad Dottie Classic as well going here. So as we record on a Tuesday night.
We'll kind of touch on, well, a little bit of what's going on in the Lucas Oil world here when we get there, but we've had to take the time to digest what's going on and what exactly is developing, all of that great stuff.
And we've seen a lot of stuff develop too, but obviously we'll touch on that once we get to it.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so if we do look slightly distracted, looking around, trust me, we're not lost. Just can't keep our eyes off of racing. But without further ado, let's get into this and let's start bouncing around, going left and right, and let's start at the Chicago Street Race. I know it's been about a week and a half since that race, and didn't get a chance to cover it on an episode. So let's jump right in. What was your guys' thought? Second go around for the Chicago Street Race. What were your guys' thoughts just overall on the Chicago Street Race?
Well, first off, we can't get away from the rain at Chicago.
Yeah.
Which they got hit with some pretty big storms last night too, again, I believe.
Yeah.
But no, we talked about this at New Hampshire about giving the teams the option of whether they wanted to go with slicks or rain tires when they wanted to. And we got to see it at Chicago. They gave the teams the option at the beginning of the race whether they wanted to go with slicks or rain tires at the beginning of it. And then as the race progressed on, we got to see that switch, and ultimately that led to some strategy calls throughout the race. So, I mean, overall, I think it was another kind of a strategy type of race. You saw a couple of favorites go out in there, but I think overall for a sophomore season, I think it was a good race. Nothing great, not race of the year type of scenario, but still a good race that it warrants going to Chicago again.
I was gonna say, sucky part about it is, yeah, it just feels like wherever NASCAR goes, it brings a rain cell with it. And I went last year to the first one, and it was same thing. Got a little bit halfway through the Xfinity race, rain canceled that. All the concerts and shit canceled, and that was just pouring on Sunday, and we didn't know what we were gonna do. So, yeah, I feel like Chicago still has not gotten a fair crack with Mother Nature. But as we always say in the racing world, we can't beat Mother Nature, but we can try. But no, I would say, I think it warrants another year. It does. And I think some of the teams are starting to warm up to it a little bit. Just with some of the unique things they're trying to do, obviously like drivers at the concert. But I did see on Door Bumper Clear, I think it was Freddie and Brett both said that, like, next year if they said we weren't going to the Clash, the Coliseum, we'd be like, all right. But they did say if they released the schedule tomorrow and said we're not going back to Chicago, they would be disappointed.
Yeah.
And I did see the feedback, which I thought too from being there. The setup of it is fantastic. Like, you are within walking distance from everything. I mean, shit, our hotel room literally looked down on the track. So we watched practice qualifying right from the track right from our hotel room, because you could open up the window and you could look over on the track. From a facility standpoint, everything is right there. Get out, you walk a quarter mile, there's the pits. You walk another quarter mile, you're in the main stage. Like, that is nice. And I did see Door Bumper Clear guys were commenting on how in Glock, even those guys, said from a layout standpoint and a cost, $200 a night for a hotel.
Yep.
It's not, outrageous. So I think give it one more year, give it another crack.
The only change I would make is move it up earlier into the day. Because now that's 2 races in a row where we've had it cut short. Give them a chance to run the full race.
Yeah.
That'd be my only thing.
Yeah, I would agree.
And especially, we saw it, especially when they were tearing down, a bunch of the walls and fences and all that right afterwards to get traffic ready to go for Monday. That just gives workers more time to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I would say that's my one gripe I would have.
Yeah. Especially knowing you're not going to have lights.
Yep, exactly.
It's a self-inflicted wound right there.
Yep. So I don't know. You want to talk about the race itself a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I mentioned that they had the option to start on rains or slicks. I mean, pretty much everybody started on rains, but I think all of us hurt a little bit there at the end of stage 1 or beginning of stage 2 when SVG ended up getting in trouble.
Yep. That was the start of the end of another god awful week for me. I can't catch a break right now. Just downright terrible.
Yeah, no, that was, we got to shout him out. Shout out Derek Kraus there. Pretty sure that was right on his corner spot in SVG where he got cleaned out. But yeah, I mean, that is the unique, the unique part about racing in the rain is it lets these guys flirt with disaster. If you push it, you can gain 3-4 spots. If you're going to be that guy that, drives it in there hard, you can gain 3-4 spots, but you also run the risk of little Kyle Larson action.
He was another one that you want to talk about really shocking everybody was his incident there. I mean, he almost hit clean all drywall, or not drywall, concrete.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That is electric when those guys get stuck under the tires and they can't go anywhere.
Well, to that point, did you see on that last lap with Chastain when he went under the tires?
Yeah, hammer down, son.
Yeah. We know he's got a habit of hammering down.
Can't get stuck if you don't lift.
Yeah, got that right. Got that right.
Yeah, so that was 2 big storylines there, and 2 heavy favorites, which put on an absolute show the day before in the Xfinity race there, Kyle Larson and SVG. So obviously 2 heavy favorites going into Sunday. Both get wiped out with Larson a little bit of a self-inflicted wound there, and then SVG getting cleaned up. But Getting later into the race, Bowman gets by Joey Hand for the lead. We're both on rain tires trying to just stay out front. And then later on, Stenhouse gets into Truex and spins Bell, who was absolutely on a tear. So there's some
took out
melee
another one
throughout
of
this.
the favorites.
Yeah, there was some melee just in general throughout this race of
They were only my fantasy guys though.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
just a lot of
So you bring that up. Keep talking. I'm
Yes.
gonna look something up here.
A lot of the heavy favorites are just out early.
Or just downright had troubles.
Yeah.
So here's another question I have too. I was going to pose to you guys. You know, these street courses, who knows your thoughts on whether you guys think, street racing is something we could expand in the sport or not. But, at Chicago, it's not a super wide track, so there's not a ton of passing. It's a lot of track position. And, your only shot is, to outbrake somebody on, one of those corners or give them a little bump. So there's not a ton of passing. But do you feel like the rain can be an equalizer and produce better racing than as if it was dry at a road course like that?
Absolutely. Especially when you throw in the scenario of if it rains, it gives it the opportunity to dry, and you give these teams the opportunity, like we've been saying, to go to slicks or rains. That end of the race was, I mean, you were watching everybody come through the pack on slicks, passing guys on wet tires, and like we were saying, you saw the strategy of Bowman and Joey Hand and some of them other guys staying up front on wets to try and get the track position. I think it throws a whole nother strategy into it. And I think it makes that race exciting, especially if it dries out during the run.
I would agree. I think giving the option, it lets more strategy play out over a longer course of time. You can come down and put slicks on. When you come put slicks on early, you might have to wait out a stage break because you're going to be on a longer run.
I think if you're sticking with just purely a dry racetrack in a street course, I still think it can provide great racing. I think we saw that with the Xfinity race. You have those passing opportunities. You have stretches in the track where it's definitely wide enough, but you have those passing opportunities where it isn't wide enough for one or two cars, and you got to get it sorted out before you hit the next straight.
Yep.
So I think it's a very well set up track. I just think the big thing of it is it's Chicago. I think that's the big thing of it. Because I mean, you see it in IndyCar too. They go to Laguna Seca, they go to Detroit. There's other street courses, but I'm forgetting them right now. But they go to street courses and they put on good racing, and it could work. It's just you need to find the right place to do it and the right layout. But I think the layout of Chicago is perfect.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I think the rain it can be a great equalizer. Give somebody a shot who's not been as great throughout the day to, stay out or be the first one to put slicks on and, try to do something. So I think it is a great equalizer. Like you guys said, it gives a different whole new level of strategy involved. And
I mean, look at what SVG did last year. I mean, and everybody said it. He just downright embarrassed everybody with the way that he was able to take advantage of the rain tires and just his background in road racing. Just downright embarrassed everybody. And everybody came back this year on a whole nother level that I think just amplified the racing action that we got.
Yeah. So, kind of wrapping that up. Bowman holds off a late charge from Reddick and wins it. Obviously, I did think that was a unique thing. Setting the time, there was 15 laps short of the scheduled distance, but NASCAR had, the countdown on the clock, basically saying, here's the time, and when this time hits, it's, one more lap and the race is official. So I did think that was kind of unique, kind of racing the clock too. and letting every team know, and everybody knows. But Bowman holds off Reddick for the win. And Bowman got a little bit of a congratulations from Bubba post race there. Windows nets down, and ended up only being a fine that came out of it when Bubba door slammed Bowman there post race.
He lifted that car up off the ground.
Yep.
He checked him pretty damn hard.
And into the wall to boot.
Correct.
Yeah. So Bowman obviously said it was a mistake on his part. He was embarrassed by it, and he hoped no point deduction was given to Bubba, which did happen. So Bowman gets a win. Reddick finishes second, Gibbs third, Joey Hand fourth, McDowell fifth, Stenhouse sixth, Gillen seventh, Byron, Bush, Blaney round out your top 10. So any final thoughts on Chicago?
No, just hope for a dry race next year.
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed it. And I think, again, like this race too, with Joey Hand's a good example of it. It brings in guys from different disciplines to try and give this a shot.
Yeah. For sure.
Joey got a little bit of help with strategy, but it could show that with a little bit of strategy help, them guys can run with the best of them.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think give Chicago another shot at it. It's a good setup. It's fun. And yeah, Bowman gets win too, and he hasn't said it, but I think we can all, well, after he won, I think we can all agree the monkey was officially off his back. A sigh of relief for him in that Hendrick camp to stop having to show up to competition meetings every day and look at, all your teammates who have won a race throughout the year. And was on obviously the Schneid there for a while. So big sigh of relief for him, I think, to get a win. Hopefully build some confidence for him. And you can see it with some of the stuff that he said in in his post-race interview. So,
and I think we touched on it earlier this year too. It wasn't a matter if, it was a matter of when this year.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. It was just going to be a matter of where that team finds their stride or just unloads with a really good race car.
And I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit, but I think you saw that, in the next week's race as well.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So that is the Chicago street race. And as we wrap this up, boys, if I drop off, I'm getting a couple internet connection unstable notifications.
Oh, God.
So if I do drop off, and I'll be popping right back in, just keep rolling as if I'm here. So
Giddy up.
getting into the second race recap we're going to talk about here. This is boots on the ground. We had the old 45th Slinger Nationals. And we had boots on the ground. We were, I'd say, just in our group chat back and forth here, we were a little bit not disappointed, but a little bit sad with some of the entry list that had come out and guys that were there. But nonetheless, put on fantastic racing, and not only fantastic racing, but post race, boy, did we get some stuff to talk about. So let's jump right into it. Boots on the ground. I'll just kick it to you guys. The old 45th Slinger Nationals. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, I want to start with Kellen, because I've been hyping up the Slinger Nationals for so long. And I mean, we'll talk about the entry list and all that a little bit later, but I want to get you had been to Slinger this year already for the Midwest Tour race.
Yep.
But I told you the Nationals was going to be a completely different beast. How did you feel about the Nationals?
It feels different just being there. You can feel it in the air. You can just feel the order about the place. It's a little bit different. Don't get me wrong, the Midwest Tour race was great too. Produced some good racing as well. But it just feels like, even in practice, it just feels more heightened. It just feels more on the edge. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it.
Every little bit matters more.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was kind of, you could just tell. You could just feel it in the air. That's kind of how I would describe it.
And I mean, I think the first little bit of it was we felt it in qualifying with guys coming out. And I mean, I said it before, it's probably the second hardest race to qualify for.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw that with a few of the guys, but it's also, you got to be on your game. And it ended up biting one guy the first time around.
Yeah.
In Andrew Morrissey, who had fast time with a brand new race car, but ended up getting DQ'd because he was 3 pounds light at the scales, which he came out later, or his car owner came out to say that they took responsibility for that one. The way that they were pitted, they were slightly angled and couldn't get the fuel cell fully packed, full of fuel.
Yep. Yeah, they said that was a mistake. They own that one. But
Stay tuned for the second one.
well, yeah, and it starts there, but what we find out, so after the last chance, they just started everyone.
Yep.
So last chance, they ran the last chance. Basically, those guys were racing for starting spots, is what it comes
Correct.
down to. So Summers won the last chance, but they started everyone. So
yep. And ultimately, the original top 3 came out of last chance.
Finishers.
The original top 3 finishers, correct.
that crossed, the cross the start finish line first came out
Yep.
of the last chance.
Yep. So I mean, but that tells you what the last chance race could produce. That's your quality of drivers in that race.
For sure. Absolutely. Talking about bigger names, I mean, it starts on lap 6.
Yeah.
Your favorite, you could say your favorite to win that race was out.
Yep. I mean, when we were making our race picks, both, amongst ourselves and then at the track, we all said, yep, Majeski's not available to pick. You just don't pick him.
Lap 6, he was out. Well,
yep.
He wasn't out, but the car was hurt.
His day was done.
Correct.
Yep. His chance of winning was done.
Yeah, so that wreck, Priest kind of caught the wall.
So I watched a replay of that. I don't know if he got loose or if he got tight, but it started in 4 because he ran up the hill in 4, and I don't think he fully truly caught it until the wall caught him.
Say he pulled the old World Outlaws dirt late model game on the old PS4 where that wall just jumps out and grabs you. Yeah, he came off 4, and I'd say almost maybe middle of the front stretch, almost like start finish line.
I think just passed, yeah.
Just passed a little bit. That wall grabbed a hold of him and stacked up the guys that were, bumper to bumper, and he drives away scotch-free for the time being and wrecks some good cars behind him.
Ty Majeski, Gio Ruggiero,
Austin Nason.
Nason.
Fast time.
Yeah.
Inherit fast time, Austin Nason.
Quick timer was in that melee
Yep.
as well. So there's only 4 cars in that wreck. There's one other car that Brad Miller, your differential winner, was spun around right there and he missed it. He got locked up right on time. But there was only like 4 cars in that wreck, but it took out some hammers when you talk about Majeski, Ruggiero, and Nason, who were all going to be coming to lap 185. Those are going to be guys that are going to be in the conversation.
Yep. And things happen so fast there that if a guy in front of you makes a mistake and you're riding right behind him as it is, the guy makes a mistake, you have no shot of trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
You just hope for the best. You just hope you spin and you maybe bend the fender a little bit, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that took
that wreck took out some favorites, and then the boys just had a hard time stringing laps together.
Yeah.
I think we were counting like lap 27. We had like 4 or 5 cautions by lap 27.
Single car spins or just something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But
when we did get some string together, you want to talk about some drama? You know, obviously we had some drama post race, but we had some drama during the race too. Old Max Kaler, who was having a good run, he had a really good run going for himself, and Johnny DeAngelis got together. DeAngelis kind of pushed Kaler up into the wall. Kaler bent a bunch of suspension pieces, ended his day. And then we saw some police go by us as we were watching the race.
We were sitting there, and pretty soon, two of them go by, and they were two-stepping it pretty quick.
Yep.
Two go,
They were on a mission.
two go by. Well, then pretty soon you flipped your scanner to the track channel, and then pretty soon three more go. They weren't running, but it was
They had an intention.
Correct. We don't really know if that was the case, but they were calling for some help in the pits, to put it that way. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just stand between the trailers or what, but
And Kaler wasn't happy either with what went down, and neither of his crew guys, obviously. And they had a really good car, so obviously them getting taken out in that way was going to make them angry.
yeah, for sure.
But obviously we didn't hear anything afterwards, which, you know, take it for what you feel like it's worth at that point.
Yeah.
But then we had the other big one happen on the backstretch, with DeVoy, Ryan Preece, Bernhagen, and then DeAngelis again.
Yeah.
Which ultimately we found out he is, well, and I thought about that when he was going through the infield. DeVoy checked up coming out of 2, and again, they're running so close to each other that you can't catch anything. Just slams Lepak's door. I forgot about him.
Yeah.
And then it looked like his throttle hung going through the infield because
He
he was coming back to hit 4.
when he went bouncing through the grass in the infield, he caught air.
Yep.
That car left the ground going through the infield, and you're heading up into 4 going, is he going to get that thing slowed down?
And that was going to be a head-on hit.
That
with a solid concrete wall.
He left the track and he got down on the apron, and that thing was still wide open, it felt like. And
So
he got it rolled up on the bank going up, but
yep.
Yeah, that one they wrecked some race cars.
Yeah. That was definitely probably the hardest ones. I mean, it got to the point they just towed Preece and Bernhagen into the infield and just let them sit there.
Yeah. So they got to sit in the infield in the car and watch the end of the race.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a little bit of a gnarly one, actually.
That was probably the bigger one, the biggest one of the evening.
Yeah.
So Thorn driving Paulie Schaefer's car, which they've had a pretty good relationship here the past couple of years. He had a good car. Obviously, he came through the last chance, made his way through up the field, but he led the second half of the first stage. So basically from 50 to 100, you could say.
Mm.
And then led a chunk of the second half, but he even said in his interview that he just got a bad set of tires and that car was not the same in that second half of the race. It was evil to him.
For sure. You could see he was struggling.
Another guy we've got to mention, Richie Bickle. He had a hell of a qualifying run.
Yep, locked himself. He got caught in that lap 6 wreck right away.
Yep. I was telling you that car was absolutely evil to him during practice. So the fact that he got third, I mean, I looked at my grandpa and we just were both shocked because we saw how terrible he was. The only car that spun in practice.
Yeah. Yeah,
he goes third fastest.
Yeah.
But no, so Brad JJ Mueller was coming up through the pack. Morrissey was coming up through the pack as well. Morrissey ends up taking the lead. And then just dominates that second half and ultimately comes across the line first in that race.
Yeah. You could see it. It was like lap 27 or something. He found himself in the top 10 already.
Yeah. That car was on rails.
Really good. Really, really good.
Got to give you guys some love here too. Your boy Kraus had a really good run. He led, what did it end up being, like 30 laps there in the beginning?
I think he led the first 60.
Yeah, he took the lead on lap 2 because we sponsored lap 3. Yeah, exactly. We sponsored lap 3. But he led from like it was like 3 to 29 or something, and then somebody else led one lap in there, and then he got the lead back. I think it might have been April.
Racing April hard early on.
I know I thought I sent you guys who led all the laps.
Yeah, I can look. It should be on the track page too.
I got it right here. So Griesbach led lap 1, Kraus led 2 to 8, and then 11 to 61, and then he also led 146 to 154.
Yeah.
Is ultimately what he had. Thorn led lap 62 to 145, which included the mystery lap, which that was a cool deal. So they had lap sponsorship for anybody that's listening to this. Ended up raising. They had 461 total envelopes, total donations that totaled $25,000 in lap money.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. You lead lap, you get the money. The mystery lap ended up being lap 113, in which Soda Sense donated $5,000 for leading that lap.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool deal. So another $25,000 on top of the $20,000 to win was really cool.
Soda Sense probably threw that in there thinking that was going to be an investment in their team.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have been a bad idea, honestly, because Fenhouse has obviously been good at Slinger as well.
Yeah. Youngest Nationals champ.
Yep. So, so ultimately, we got to get to that later part of it. The dreadful tech shed. And Morrissey doesn't pass tech. There was the photo that went around. For those that saw it, you know what we're talking about. For those that don't see it, the center template on the body did not fit the car. Basically, what it was is you looked at the roof and you could shove your fist underneath it. I mean, that thing was a gap.
Yeah.
And that sparked a whole discussion from the team and from the track and how the procedure, how the car was teched and what needed to be done for it to get teched and braces and all that. It's a mess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. It makes it a tough situation because then you gotta go back, you gotta rescore all the laps.
Yep.
You gotta go back and rescore all laps, you gotta go back and reallocate lap money. So you gotta go back and obviously timing and scoring have their hands full doing that, and they will get that right. But yeah, I don't know. That was it was a visible gap in that template, and you even had the likes of Bubba Pollard commenting on that entire scenario. So
Yep.
that becomes a question of what especially Bubba, his name's got a lot of pull in Super League world. What after having a week to chew on it, what are his thoughts looking at that now?
Yep.
Is that within
that
reason that the track made the correct decision?
because going back to last year, Stars National Tour was supposed to be at the Slinger Nationals. Slinger Nationals was a Stars Tour race, and they ended up not going there, and they went to Milwaukee instead because of the rule book, which I get it for Slinger. It's like Snowball Derby. It's their rule book. They want their rules. They don't want anybody else coming in.
Yep.
And that was a whole debate there. Ultimately though, so Brad JJ Mueller ends up being declared the winner of that race. Which he's been going at it for 22 years.
Yeah.
I think it's how many attempts that he's had in that race. Obviously, it's not the way that he wants to win it, but it's the Slinger Nationals. You're gonna take that. You're gonna take that win when you get it. And anybody that saw his interview, he's about as real as he gets. He had about as many F-bombs as you could have in an interview, but he was very emotional about it too. It obviously means a lot to him to win that race.
And I said that too in the chat to you guys. It sucks, but it doesn't suck. Obviously finishing the race, he doesn't get to do any of the victory lane, the with the crowd there, he doesn't
Mhm.
get to do any of that. And that's obviously something you want to do when you're chasing that race win for as long as he has. That's obviously probably something he's dreamed of, being able to stand on that car in front of that incredible crowd. So that part sucks for him, but the other part that doesn't suck is it's not going to complain about a $20,000 payday.
And then another $3,100 for inheriting the lap money from Morrissey.
So yeah, sucks you don't get the experience, but we're not complaining about a payday like that.
You get the big check and you get the trophy.
Yeah, he goes from the Slinger Nationals to running his dirt super late model on over the weekend, and he is at 141 right now for the IMCA King of the Creek stock car race.
So racer's racer.
If it's got four wheels and it goes in a circle, he'll probably drive it.
Yep, 100%. And he'll drink beer afterwards with you.
Yep, he's got a Midwest truck.
Oh boy! Anybody see that on Lucas Oil?
Marler.
Hudson O'Neal just ran Marler into the wall, and Marler's rear end is toast.
Yikes. Off record, RTJ was fastest in hot laps. Hudson O'Neal was second.
Ricky won his heat race too.
Correct.
Won his heat race, but I'm 99% certain he's still rocking an SSI fire suit there. So we might want to get that fixed.
Get the duct tape going.
Probably. But no, Slinger Nationals, obviously, like we said, Brad Miller gets a win, declared the winner. He's been chasing it for a long time. Like you said, that interview with him was, you can tell the emotion and the meaning behind that win, how much it means to him. And yeah, probably a dream come true. So Brad Miller gets the win, Derek Thorne, P2, Derek Kraus, Apel, Braun, Farrell, Dennis Prunty, Summers, Willie Nelson, Brad Keith were your top 10. So kind of wraps up the Slinger Nationals. One other thought I was going to have is quite the race length there. Saw a little bit of chatter about that online, the length of it.
2 hours and 22 minutes.
It was the cautions.
Yeah.
What it was.
Because I don't know when all I know is I was getting ready for bed and I was texting Colin and he was shooting me updates and I'm like, dude, eyes are falling asleep and he's texting me updates and I'm like, how is this thing still going?
And we had an hour and 41 minutes back to the cabin too.
I had a 2-hour drive back.
We walked in the cabin at 1:07 in the morning.
I think ours was about 1:30.
I immediately walked in. I set my bag down. The girl's like, "How'd it go?" I said, "It was good. Really long. I didn't expect it to go that long." I said, "I'm headed to bed."
Yep.
See you in the morning.
Yeah, we'll discuss it in the morning, and we had plenty to talk about.
Yep.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts on Slinger Nationals?
No, it was good. I enjoyed it. There's just a different aura, a different feel, a different atmosphere around it. So that will be one I will keep on my radar for sure.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, wrapped up a good race for the Slinger Nationals. Fastest quarter mile, which not sure if he listens, but that one guy was trying to debunk us on our YouTube channel a while back about what the fastest quarter mile is. So we'll throw it out there and see if we get commented on it and see if he's up there again.
It's the world's fastest quarter mile.
She's fast.
Yeah. So
just knocked the fence down again by himself.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So yeah. Getting into the next race we're going to talk about here. Going back to the top of asphalt racing. NASCAR visited the old Tricky Triangle this past weekend. And there was some storylines coming out of this race, to say the least. But I'll kick it to you guys. just initial thoughts on the old Pocono race.
Pocono is an underrated track.
You think so?
I think so.
I was
I
kind
like Pocono.
I was kind of thinking it was a little bit overrated.
I like Pocono.
Whoa.
I mean,
And not for the obvious reasons. Let's point that out right now.
well, yeah.
I think I like a technical track, and the fact that you have 3 different corners on that track. I mean, you can't it's very hard to set up a car to run good in all 3 corners.
One might even say it's impossible because you make
Yeah.
an adjustment in one corner, you're going to give something up in another.
Yep, and especially with the tunnel turn 2 and the bumps that are over there.
Yeah.
That is a driver's track, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. I could agree with that.
So, races can get drawn out. Don't get me wrong; they could definitely get drawn out. But I think it's a good race in its own right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that right rear on Hudson O'Neal looks pretty sharp right now.
Yeah, it does.
Well, Mikey's gonna come over to the hauler and check in with him and see what's going on there after that. Buddy, are you rocking? Okay. Yeah, sorry, about to lose again. But we had another you talk about being able to be set up for all 3 corners. We had a couple guys that took themselves out. What you never want to see. Gregson, Chastain, and Gillen all wreck out on their own cautions. I know Gillen was a brake failure that he felt going down the straight, so he bows out. But Chastain and Gregson both wreck out and bring out cautions. And then towards the end of the race there, been quite a bit of discussion around this. LaJoy,
He decided he had done enough racing with Kyle Busch.
and Kyle Busch's nightmare year just continues.
Yeah.
Correct. I did see today that NASCAR is looking at that again.
They are not finding him. That came out as well.
So they looked at it and they said, yeah, no, we're good.
Correct.
They didn't fine him, but you could listen to some of the radio chatter. LaJoy didn't say it, but his team had a lot of things to say about the 8 car.
I.e., crew chief?
Which leads to one might think that, hey, maybe there was a little
Ill intent.
Yeah. But that takes out Bush, it took out Priest. AJ Allmendinger was involved, but yeah, LaJoy just I feel like that was intentional.
That's all. And going into turn 1 on a restart, where if you spin a guy, you know he's coming back up onto the track.
Yeah.
Dude, that if you haven't seen the Josh Berry onboard cam,
Cool.
I mean that's
ours is good too.
That's a driver's nightmare to be going into corner 1 and out of your left.
You just see
vision, you can see a car that's headed spinning back up the track.
You can't lift, otherwise you're gonna get ran over.
Yep. So yeah, LaJoy doesn't get fined, doesn't get anything out of it, which is definitely interesting. So yeah, but later on in the race, guy who started on the pole, who you feel like he just is knocking on the door of one of these wins, 54 monster car, Gibbs blows a motor on a restart and spills some chocolate milk out the pipes there down the back stretch there. So
it's been I don't think I've actually ever seen that mixture come out of tailpipe before.
Like a little fresh batch of chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what water and oil mixed like with a lot of compression. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were saying though, he's a guy that's knocking on the door.
Yeah, I mean, outside of his strategy call, they ran in the top 10 the whole day.
He pulled away on that first get go.
Yeah, they were only back there because of strategy, and
Yep.
he just blew up. So, yeah, I don't know. Tough, that is for sure.
Yeah, but he's definitely somebody who's. It's getting down there, boys. Now that it's going to be NBC is going to throw the old cut line on the side of the screen, and you start watching that for the next few weeks. So it's getting down to crunch time for the boys, and he's somebody that is to the good right now. But another one of those weeks, and he can find himself in a not so good situation. But pit strategy came into play late in stage 3 with gas mileage in mind. And then interesting, don't know if it was necessarily drivers or timing, but we had 4 drivers get caught in LaJoy's section of pit road, section 7.
So
Which
that,
might have cost some of those guys a shot at winning or competing for a win.
I don't know if you saw or heard on the pace laps, but I think almost every driver on their practice run down pit road sped in section 7.
That's what they were going to call the hot section.
Yep. 100%. Which I heard when I heard that them 4 guys caught speeding, I saw them all 4 on the screen. I'm like, I bet you it was section 7. I called it out, and sure enough, it was right.
Yeah, it.
Yup. That's okay.
Who
Those are my
knows?
guys too.
But it's and Burton pointed out on the broadcast, he pointed out how many laps were left in that race and says, you can't hold back on pit road. You got to get every little bit that you can.
Yep,
That's what it was.
you can.
Especially if for them guys were going for 2 tires. I mean, that half a second or 10th of a second means a lot.
Yeah.
100%. But yeah, and then you mentioned it right there. A lot of drivers take 2 tires on the final pit stop, and don't need a ton of gas. So just another strategy call here, trying to get some track position. So Blaney restarts from the lead, and makes that thing 3 lanes wide and drives out his rear view mirror aero blocks to keep the lead, and gets his second win of the 2024 season. So there's Blaney, Hamlin, Bowman, another solid run for Bowman, Byron, Logano, Reddick, Keselowski, Truex, Elliott, and Wallace round out your top 10. So overall solid race from Pocono. We've been throwing it back and forth, and I'm sure it's music to our tire changers' ears, but Blaney has made himself, I think, a strong candidate to be the lead 4 driver.
Yeah.
I mean, championship aside, he's shown consistency. He's obviously getting the race wins. And just the lack of performance from other 4 drivers. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say no to him being the top 4 driver.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would say.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, so who? I mean, honestly,
the only other one that stands out is one of the 2 cars from RFK.
Yeah, Bush or Brad K. Yeah, that's your top 3.
Yep. That I could agree with. Yep. 100%.
yeah. So, yeah, Ford gets a win there. And overall solid race from Pocono. So, any other final thoughts for the boys?
JD just held off Bishop for a heat race win.
Yep.
Try to speed it up a little bit so we can catch that action. Well, since everybody's sidetracked and I just asked any final thoughts on Pocono, I guess we're leaving the tricky triangle. We're going on to the next section of the podcast. And usually I think this section is titled you know, 5
15.
minutes of fast facts, but this week it looks like we're kicking tires and chewing the fat. So we got news from the last, you know, I'd
Couple
say
weeks.
week or so, week, 2 weeks, week and a half.
Yeah.
We got some heavy hitting news here, so I'll just kick it off to the old Jack man. Hit us with a kick on the tire.
Josh Berry finds himself Cup Series driving next year for the 21 at Wood Brothers. That would leave Burton without a ride at the moment. So
I think you knew Barry was going somewhere. It was just a matter of where.
Yep, but just locked in another domino of silly season.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, another part with that, you always think about the drivers when it comes to silly season. You know, you got to think about crew guys too. And obviously with this SHR closing down, you got 4 crew chiefs that are looking for spots. Well, Ronnie Childers found his spot with Slinger Motorsports starting in 2025. And it sounds like it was a long-term and a very lucrative deal for him as well.
And there was
So
a lot of chatter. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say just Slinger Motorsports putting the investment for the future.
Yep. And I think, you know, 2 quick points off of that. A lot of chatter about, you know, Barry and Childers saying they wanted to stick together. Want to keep that pairing together. Wood Brothers saying they were going to interview Childers for it and whatever. And then Childers come out and said, basically, it sounds like Aspire put the full court press on him, made him feel wanted, made him, you know, gave him a lucrative offer, made him feel like, hey, we want you, we can do something special with you. And big move for Spire. And then I think that puts the pressure on the 7. I've been about as outspoken as I can in the, not publicly, but privately about that 7 car and his performance. You get somebody like that, and it's time to, hey, you've been in Cup Series long enough. You're getting one of the best in the business on the box. Let's start knocking out a couple top 10s. So
As you know, talking in football terms or in baseball terms, 2025 is a contract year.
yep.
Bingo.
So yeah. And then I'll follow that up with I think you could argue probably the biggest news over the last week and a half is Deegan and AM Racing officially part ways. Yeah, it's been
Quite the
writing
turnaround of 2 weeks.
yeah, the writing's been on the wall. Unfortunately, just Deegan not being able to get going and not having the results speak for it. Somebody's mowing the yard there on Lucas Oil race, taking her for a spin through the infield. Yeah, Deegan's just been struggling. And I guess somebody just doored the piss out of somebody.
Jesus. What's going on here?
Yeah, I did chaos.
Are these the great guys or what?
Yeah.
I think so.
No, but Deacon gets ousted, and I think AM Racing finally was to a point where it's like, all right, we got to figure out if it's driver or equipment. The only way to do that is to put somebody new in the seat. They put Logano in the seat, and it was announced as, you know, this is going to be a one-time thing. And then shortly thereafter, AM and Deacon both put out that they've split. So she's now a free agent. Looking to find a ride for 2025 and forward. So
yeah. Looking down the list. Going to the dirt. We haven't really mentioned the dirt much on the episode here. Bobby Pierce has found himself hot, and we've always said it's not going to be a matter of if, it's going to be a matter of when. He's won the last 4 World of Outlaw races, and he's also won a Lucas race. So BP32 is on a mission right now.
Especially with the World Outlaws coming from that point deficit.
Yeah.
He's climbing up. He's getting closer and closer to Shepard and Hoffman, and it's going to be a battle when we come down to it.
Yeah. So
I watched the IndyCar race at Iowa. First off, they're clicking off laps, qualifying laps at 188-mile-an-hour average around Iowa. So booking, to say the least. Exactly.
Yeah.
End of that race on Sunday. Big crash with Stingray Rob getting airborne and rolling over in that car. Very scary to see. I actually haven't seen any update from him. I think it was more, he did go to the hospital, but I think it was a precautionary thing
Yeah,
more than
I
anything.
believe he was released. I did
But
see
no,
that.
yeah, that was, you don't see a car flip like that very often. Yep, he's getting in the car. Getting in the car this weekend. So all is well.
Yeah, I did see somewhere, credibility or not, I did see that wreck um registered at 109 G's. It's a lot of force.
Yeah, it is.
They hit hard.
So, otherwise the last one, this was kind of stemming from the previous week. Lewis Hamilton and Pat O'Ward, along with Bowman on the same weekend, all broke long race winless streaks.
Yeah,
I think Hamilton's was somewhere up in the 90s. I think O'Ward's was somewhere in the 50s. I think Bowman was 80. So a lot of longless win streaks snapped.
for sure. I feel
Off
like
of
that.
that, you want to jump into a couple other race winners from this previous few weeks or no?
Well, I'm gonna hit just on last week because otherwise we're gonna get a little overboard with it.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I want to make sure I'm in the right spot here. Bobby Pierce. We talked about him being on a tear. He actually won a Castrol Flow race as well. Looking at USAC, Jason Pursley won. He actually won a couple nights in a row. Let's see. I thought there was another one in there, but probably not. Otherwise, looking, obviously, we talked about Brad J.J. Mueller. Gio Selzy won at Beaver Dam. I was at that race. That was a blast. Bobby Pierce won at World Outlaws from Bedford. Devin Moran won the Lucas Oil race at 34 Speedway. Looking at the trucks, Corey Heimtime, he wins again with the trucks. Justin Grant won with the midgets as well. Let's see. Carson Macedo won at Wilmot on night one. And then Donnie Schatz won on night two out at Wilmot as well. ASA ended up getting rained out this weekend. For NTT, Penske sweeps at Iowa. Scott McLaughlin wins on Saturday. Will Power wins on Sunday. Team Penske actually sweeps Iowa with Ryan Blaney's win there as well. Lucas Oil Raceway was rained out for Lucas Oil. Southern Super Series and ASA Super Series were racing at Nashville for the North-South Super Late Model Challenge. Casey Roderick gets his, believe it or not, his first Super Late Model win of the year in that one.
They also tore that motor down.
Yeah. That's a touchy subject. Cole Custer wins the Xfinity race. Rico Abreu won at High Limit at Portsmouth. What else do I want here?
Oh, that's good.
Luke Soil, Hudson O'Neal back in the SSI car wins at Eagle Raceway, and basically his first outing with the new team. So,
Yep. And speak of that, I mean, what a segue you brought us to.
I was done anyway, so this is perfect timing.
Oh man.
Well, should we talk about the other big elephant? And I know, Cam, you talked about it. We put something out last week, but let's get you involved in this whole deal as well, and especially with the information and stuff that has happened since then.
Well, let's just throw it out there. Obviously, out of nowhere, Ricky Thornton Jr. is released. Or is let's just cut to the point. He was fired. Um, and he is released, and it did not take long. And they had Hudson O'Neal in the wing. So obviously sent shockwaves through the dirt late model scene. And, some of the guys that, from Dirt on Dirt and Flow are saying a top 3 biggest story since they've been involved in the sport.
Absolutely.
So, I just don't know where to start. What happened? Why? Um, Undisclosed reason. It's mind-boggling.
So me and Kellen were talking about this a little bit before you hopped on, and I saw this from Dirt Tracker as well. My wonder is if RTJ, and this is not a coincidence that we've seen this since. I wonder if RTJ wanted to run more races and different equipment outside of Lucas Oil, any other races that SSI wanted to run, and SSI didn't want him to. Because since he's been released, he's run a midget, he's run an IMCA stock car. I think there was another one in there, but I don't remember. And he's got some more stuff that he wants to run.
Yeah, he ran a modified one night too.
Yep. So I don't think it's a coincidence that he's running different cars shortly after leaving SSI when he hasn't run really anything all year.
Chris, you ran a race with Keith Coons.
Yep. That was that midget race. He had some issues in it that didn't get him the finish that he wanted to. But when Keith Coons comes calling and says, "Hey, I got a midget for you if you want to run," it's hard to say no.
Yeah.
On that note, hard to say no when Kenny Wallace comes calling and says, "Hey, I'm going to get your name in the mix for some NASCAR, some asphalt stuff."
Well, that sounded like that was an RTJ wanting to get out there as well with the help of Kenny Wallace.
Either way.
Yep.
Either way, RTJ's got his name in the mix in a lot of shit right now. And we got, I think, once he got out of the news there for the wrong reasons, being dismissed, it did not take long, and he's got himself back in the news. It feels like every which way you turn, you can find his name. So it seems like in one of his interviews, one of the first times speaking, he said that is one of the reasons why he took the ride that he did. Was because of the ability to run a bunch of different equipment, the midgets, the modifieds, which I think he loves to do. He ran the midget at Chili Bowl. He ran a modified at the Dome. He's got a knack for just getting behind the wheel, whatever he can, and trying to do it. So, yeah, I could definitely see it. But I don't know. It still is mind-boggling how SSI can make that call and say,
"Hi, Ricky."
Did he win 53 races in the last year and a half? I think
60. It was 60 features they won together.
Almost a Lucas Oil championship, however many race wins that they have this year. It was undoubtedly not a performance thing.
Yeah,
it was not a performance issue.
The #1 dirt late model driver in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got to give, stepping back here a little bit, you got to give props to Shepard, to the Shepard crew, though.
Yep.
They came in, told RTJ, "Hey, we got a car here," because they had Lucas Oil, running, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesday night, whatever it was.
Thursday.
It was a Monday night.
No.
Oh, was that for no, that was for no, he didn't run Castrol. It was Castrol.
No, he didn't run Castrol. He took Castrol off, and then they ran the Lucas Oil on Thursday night.
That's right.
We recorded on a Tuesday, and we said we're going to have answers very shortly, and then that feature ran on Thursday night.
Correct. Yep. So it was Lucas Oil. So they stepped up and said, "Hey, we got a car that if you want to run it, you can run it."
Yeah, Brandon Shepard's dad. That was his car. He said he could drive.
Yep.
Struggled first, but obviously as a certified wheelman, just was behind the 8 ball a little bit, which you'd expect first night in the equipment. Was a little bit behind the 8 ball early, but it didn't take long. Goes 20th to 7th in a feature. So, I'm still just trying to wrap my head around that.
And then
I just don't get it.
and then shortly after, it's announced that he's in the, if I'm pronouncing right, Kohler Motorsports.
Yep.
Kohler Motorsports, and what was the 114 and is now being transitioned over to the 20 RT,
which was a rocket, and is now a Longhorn. And you have Jimmy Owens, the O Show, running a rocket, and they bought Ricky a Longhorn.
Tell me that they're not invested in having RTJ around for a while.
That's what I just said. And you don't think that Steve Arpin, that owns Longhorn, was on the phone going, "Hey, so I know that you're a rocket guy, but I know you're talking to Ricky. What do I got to do to keep Ricky in a Longhorn?"
Yep.
End of conversation. I have a car that's built and ready to go that might be for someone else, but I can have it in your shop tomorrow night.
Yep.
All you got to do is ladder it.
There's
Steve Arpin was not going to let Ricky run a rocket.
Yeah, and there's two other thoughts I thought, or one other thought that I was thinking, as he's a free agent, if you're not a team owner, let's preface this that Ricky said he had 50 to 60 people reach out to him to drive, and 12 of those people were on a full-time basis. He said about a dozen on a full-time basis, so give or take a few. So needless to say, he had a few options. But as a team owner, would you not just say, look, I might not have all the financial backing right now, but I'm gonna throw the kitchen sink at him and try to give him everything he got, because I think he can, if we get him in the door, he
Oh,
can
you're gonna get the financial backing
from him.
Yep.
You say, hey, I don't have quite like, the Shepherd Riggs racing car, for them, where it's a family owned kind of sponsored car. Like you don't have a big name, kind of sponsor, but hey, you work with Brandon, we'll give you whatever you want. We might not have, the big name sponsors behind us, but we'll give you whatever you want. And just know, like, as a team owner, like, it's like going all in poker. I'm just gonna go all in and bet the house that Ricky could win and take this team to the next level.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a backwards way to think about it, but
Yep. That's what all the guys with B main cars are calling Ricky. Hey, buddy.
Yep. Yep. But no, ultimately,
Yeah.
and then of course in their first races out in their new teams, RTJ goes 13-4 at 34 Raceway, and then O'Neal goes P2.
Yep. They've coincidentally very much found themselves racing together very quickly.
Well, and they're ramping up to do that again tonight.
Yep. Both heat race winners.
As we talk about Flow Racing or Luke Soil. So
Brought to you by Flow Racing.
Brought to you by Flow Racing, correct. This is obviously going to be quite the development as the season goes on. Yeah, talk about putting the world on a upside down, and as now we move on, and again, next couple weeks are going to be really, keep an eye on this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it didn't take long for those two to find each other.
Yep.
And I'm thinking like this whole situation is like it's not great, but it's like a real life bad breakup with a girlfriend. It's like that team had somebody waiting in the wing, and then all of a sudden the breakup happens, and it's like, all right, yep, next person's in. And then it doesn't take long to go out in public for the first time, and there you're running into
Yeah.
So either way, it's I don't think there's any real hard feelings between the two, between Hudson and Ricky. I think they're just going to continue to race the heck out of each other and put on good show. So yeah, absolute stunner of news there. So any other final thoughts on the old RTJ and HO1 news?
No, I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Yep, follow along.
Yeah, it honestly is a head scratcher. And as a move as a team order to make, he says he gets paid money. Well, he doesn't even get paid, but he owns a team and it's his job to make hard decisions. That is,
That's so that's a decision you put on yourself.
yeah. So
You
anyways,
make the decisions and you deal with the consequences, good or bad.
Yep.
yeah. But stay tuned. Obviously, they're um, racing each other a lot now, and Ricky's new car does look pretty sharp. So, um, getting into another quick topic here. Um, Mid-season super late model check-in. Um, this is just kind of this is more so a Jackman and tire changer kind of topic here. You guys have been boots on the ground at a fair amount of these super late model races. So we're gonna do just a check-in, and I'm gonna let you guys take this conversation wherever you want it. And if I feel relevant enough, I'll chime in.
Well, and I think let's start with this. This conversation kind of stems from the Slinger Nationals entry list.
Yep. Well, for sure.
It's kind of where this stems from. You know, we were, and I admittedly so was hyping this up quite a bit,
Yep.
and the entry list comes out, and boy, did I feel like an idiot.
Well,
If I'm going to be honest with you.
there just wasn't the traveling presence this year.
Yep.
There wasn't. Yes, we had Ryan Priest. There wasn't a bigger NASCAR presence where last year you had 3 Cup drivers. You know, I, I, you had no Bubba Pollard. You had no Stephen Nasse. You really had like 3 or 4 traveling guys. Really, Gio, Priest. You had Door.
Yep.
When you look down the list, from there you had a lot of weekly guys. And
Shit,
then
we couldn't even get the old savvy vet Matt Kenseth out for it.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about Kenseth.
yeah. So I made a list of, and these are just guys that in looking at it, I've been saving this note for a while to do this. So I made the list of guys that especially up here that you see run super late models weekly, and I'll run this list by you and stop me when you feel so. But she had no campy presence at all, so more of a traveling. But then you look down the list. Neither of the Fredricksons, Jeff Storm, Matt Kenseth, Riley Stenjem, Casey Johnson, Beal and Zier, Nick Egan, Haver, Edmonds, Miller, Heinrich, Sargent, Berge, Lynch, Bobby Kendall, Swanson, Monday, Pollard, Nasse. I'm pretty sure DeStefano's car is on the jig,
Yep.
so he might just not have a car.
It even to this Nasse one. Nasse has run an April car in years past.
Yeah, he's teamed up with somebody, and
Yeah.
maybe April chose not to do that, but maybe also no one called April to do it.
Yeah.
You
It's just it felt like another Midwest race. What
more
it
more so probably
when it necessarily shouldn't be.
race.
It was don't get me wrong, it was a great race nonetheless. It was a strong
Yeah.
field of cars.
The strength of field of the cars in there per super late model rankings is still a top 10 field.
Correct. It just it missed.
We shouldn't portray that as differently as we do, but that field annually usually lands itself in the top 3,
Yep.
top
Easily.
4 if you really stretch it. So,
So, and we talked about last year where the SA was going to originally sanction it. They left because Slinger couldn't agree to terms on the rule book, so it ended up being a Slinger race. And I got to thinking about it, and I found the article. You remember over the winter when all the Midwest teams came up with a standardized list of super late model rules?
Yep.
Slinger was on that list.
So our rule package is different than the touring guys.
Well, but you got to think Midwest Tour guys, the Midwest Tour, a lot of the tracks, including Slinger, including the Slinger Nationals, were a part of this standardized rules. So you had the same rules of what you've run on a weekly basis, essentially.
Got it.
But and the Midwest Tour. So to that point, does that it always comes down to the rule book. Whenever something like this happens, it always comes down to the rule book. Did that influence guys like a Pollard or Nassie to not come in, a Byron, a Campy, to not come in versus what they might have done in years past?
Yeah, I have to think so. Yeah,
So my question to you is, I'll answer that question with a question. How many times in the past at the Slinger Nationals have they started whoever showed up?
I think they did it last year, but that's just because of cars that wrecked in the last chance.
It was unscheduled to do that per the circumstances.
Yes. So the fact that they straight out did it this year was damn near unprecedented.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking 3 years ago when Byron won it, you had cars go home.
Yeah.
And good cars go home.
Yep. Yeah.
We're talking, I'm pretty sure, you know, when I was watching it, I thought, a few years ago, it was like 44 cars. And you're talking 20, 24, 26 make the show. And you're talking, 15, 20 car, or 15, 12 car LCQ. Like almost like a double feature for a dirt race, it was. Yeah. So
and that was the point of second hardest qualifying behind the Snowball Derby.
Yeah. And it was.
Yeah.
It always
absolutely.
It always has been. It's been that the Slinger Nationals is the Derby's always been the Slinger Nationals of the South.
Yep.
So my question to you, super late model gurus, is we're dealing with this right now.
Yep.
We're watching, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 44 cars. We're down to, 20 something, starting everybody. Where do we go from here with the Slinger Nationals to get it back to?
Well, let's start with this Morrissey deal. Because, Baba Pollard, he made that initial comment of, I'm going to find it. Because he made that initial comment of, if what I'm hearing is true,
I think it's something like, please tell me there's more to the story.
Correct.
I'll look right now because I tweeted at him just momentarily.
Yeah, I got it right here. It says, please tell me there's more to this DQ last night than what I'm hearing. You wonder why you only have 224 cars. Someone explain. So I'm waiting for, I call it the Dixieland, but it's the Gandra 250 at Kaukauna. Because you saw the effects of ASA sanctioned race at Gandra last year with not getting a lot of the local presence coming in. I just wonder if you're going to see that. Are we going to see a carryover of that from Slinger into this, or is Kaukauna going to be a completely different deal where, okay, now it's maybe the track itself, maybe it's the rule book, the track owner, maybe it's a Slinger specific issue and not necessarily a standardized rule book issue.
Yeah.
I think Kaukauna is going to be the state of the sport in the Midwest point.
Yeah.
That's going to tell you the full story, I think.
So stay tuned.
But this was the first one that really brought it up. But if you want to, venture out on this, we talked about the Southern Super Series and CR race at Nashville. They had 16 cars for that one.
It wasn't exactly like they were setting the world on fire either.
And you had no Butcher for that race, your ASA points leader. He wasn't there for that race. Nason wasn't there, but he also might have not been there because of the Nationals wreck. But Matt Weaver brought it up too. There were other races going on that week that maybe guys just decided they wanted to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because you had, and I'm hoping to hell I could find this. Probably won't because you had the NASCAR race too. You had a race in Jennerstown on Wednesday. There was
If you
another
want,
one.
That
if
was
you
Thursday.
want,
That was
That
Thursday.
was Thursday. There was a Wednesday race I thought in there. Maybe there wasn't.
Went and ran that one too.
if you want any unsolicited advice where you're thinking about going forward, racing tweets, bookmark them. Hit
Yep.
that little rectangle and then go to your bookmarks, and then it'll pull up everything you bookmark.
Yep.
So
Here we go. So Slinger Tuesday, Jennerstown Thursday, Nashville Saturday.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have 3 races there that it pulls guys from going to certain races.
Yeah.
Where
There are 3 that might be far enough apart that they need to pick one of the 3.
correct. And especially when Sauter went down to Jennerstown to run in a different car.
Yeah, he went and ran for Richie Waters again.
Eric Jones went to Jennerstown.
Yeah.
But then again, you got guys going to Nashville where we know Bubba's own car is not in great shape. So he's
someone else.
correct. So that limits where he can go.
Yeah.
Nassie's in the same boat. I mean, I bet you Michael Hine would have been there at Slinger.
Had you not junked the car, yeah.
And if maybe Nashville wasn't running the same weekend.
Yeah.
So could it be a scheduling thing?
It leaves a lot of intrigue for next year.
Yes. And I know ASA was trying to get it where a lot of these big races don't interfere with each other, but as we pointed out before, there are no Midwest Tour co-sanctioned races on the ASA Stars National Tour this year because of rule books.
No.
That kind of leaves, I'm not saying that we're special by any means, but that leaves the Midwest in their own boat and kind of on their own.
Midwest Tour was scheduled to race on Saturday.
That too. Yep, forgot about that.
But then you see the entry list and you have guys that aren't where you thought were going to be full-time with the Midwest Tour are not, but they're also not at Slinger.
Casey Johnson's one of them.
Casey Johnson, that just comes to mind, who hasn't won a Slinger Nationals, who we thought was going to run for a Midwest Tour title.
Who actually raced at Pocono on Thursday for the white race. I don't know how many cars they have, but 2 at most.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, I think there's a lot of variables going on with this that I think, like I said, the Gandra 250 and Kakana is going to be this is where the state of the sport's at.
That's going to be your measuring stick for up here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. It's just that raised a lot of questions. I would say weekly racing, especially like the Dells has been doing really good. Kakana's been doing really good. State Park's not been doing too hot, but that's, there's a whole nother discussion there.
Yeah, they're closing up shop. They got guys that are looking to go somewhere else. I get it.
Yep.
You got to find somewhere else that you want to run, and if you're going to continue to race weekly.
But let's be honest, this racing deal is expensive too, and if you're not paying for races, guys aren't going to show.
Amen. And the money part for the Slinger Nationals was not a question.
Correct.
You knew there was going to be 20 grand in lap money.
Oh, easily.
So it was last year. So you could say you could say payout wise, there's going to be $40,000 there.
Yep.
So it certainly was not a matter of, oh, well, we're going to run for $8 grand.
10 grand.
Yeah, that was the furthest thing from the case. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I really hope we get the traveling guys back up here. And I really hope that our rule book for that event hasn't set us aside.
Correct.
We have the unified late model rules up here. And for the tour, the Midwest Tour, and the weekly guys, that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
But if the Slinger Nationals isn't the field that we expected next year, does that rule book get changed again? Make it a standalone event. Well, then you're not going to have your weekly guys potentially. I don't know. You're gonna have to give somewhere. It's where do you give?
Which fight do you want to fight?
Bingo. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. That's for sure.
Well, we'll check in again. We'll do another check in after the old Gandrud.
That's in 3 weeks. It's almost 3
So-
weeks from today
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Cedar Lake is 2 weeks.
And it's that
Yeah.
following Tuesday.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do another check-in. So it's a little mid-season super late model check-in. Obviously, we got to do that with you two pit lizards as much as you're at the track. We gotta do a check-in like that. Actually see if you guys are watching any racing or if you guys are staring at each other. So
Wow.
well, that kind of wraps it up as some of the topics we wanted to talk about tonight. But we got some big racing coming up here. So let's get into some quick hit and race previews that you guys can stay tuned on the channel for and see later this week. Who's hitting race preview number one? Is that me or is that somebody else?
No,
I'll
go
take
ahead.
two. So
Cam, go ahead. You're number one.
Yeah, I'm number one.
You told me 2 weeks ago that this series doesn't get the love, so I put out a race preview on it because your words were just rattling around in my head. So have at
Yeah,
it.
so here we go. Lucas Oil Dirt Late Models. They have their Silver Dollar Nationals this weekend, the 18th through the 20th. That's a Thursday to Saturday at Huset's. It is Huset's. Obviously, a couple weeks ago got rained out for dealt with a lot of mass flooding, but just a super racy little joint. Puts on fantastic racing. So Thursday, Friday, both 40 lap, 10,000 win features for the Lucas Oil. And then for the finale, the 14th annual Silver Dollar Nationals, 53,000 to win on Saturday. So going to be some fantastic racing. That track is, again, just a racy little joint, big, small, wide, a lot of lanes to run. Going to be fantastic. Last year, your Thursday winner was RTJ, your Friday winner was Huddy, and your 2023 winner was Bishop, Pierce, O'Neal, RTJ, Turbo, T-Mac, Tim McCready. So be a big weekend for those boys, shaking it down, as we talked about, some guys and some new rides. So going to be fantastic. You can catch all that action live on Flow Racing.
how convenient that O'Neal and RTJ were back to back to each other.
Yep. Probably ran 1-2 to each other both nights too.
Yeah.
How convenient.
Yep.
I'll take the next one here because I'm going to be putting out a bigger preview of it later or hopefully tonight actually. Wing sprints at Eldora. So we got high limit running on Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday pays $100,000 to the winner. Question is how many World Outlaw guys are going to show up there. And then of course on Friday we've got the night before the King's Royal, with Saturday of course being the 41st running of the King's Royal. Carson Macedo won the night before. Donnie Schatz, was last year's winner of the King's Royal. Saturday pays $175,000 to win for that one. So high limit obviously is on Flow Racing with Royal Outlaws on Dirt Vision. We're kind of getting a preview with how many cars could potentially be there with the Brad Dottie Classic going on right now. They had 46 sprint cars there. I would expect close to the same number for Eldora.
Yeah. A lot of money on the line there.
$324,000 to the winner in total between the 4 nights.
Oh, big money. Race preview number 3. We're gonna go ahead and jump down to the Red Bud 400 on Anderson Speedway. This is the 58th running of that race. That is a co-sanction with the ASA Stars National Tour and the CRA Super Series. So yeah, looking at the entry list, you got good field of cars. They'll be in the top 10 for sure in strength of field. Roderick won at Nashville over the weekend. Butcher, he's in the show. He's our defending race winner. And that is kind of part of the big weekend with NASCAR at Indy. So that kind of segues us into the NASCAR preview. So Cup Series heads back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Oval. So first time since 2020. Kevin Harvick was the last winner on the Oval, so we don't have the reigning Oval winner in the field. And then this is obviously the first time there with this current Cup car. So Xfinity will also race at the Oval, and trucks will be over at IRP. And as of yesterday, Johnny Sauter back in Truck Series at IRP.
Always like seeing Johnny in a truck.
Yeah, for sure. So other races on the schedule for the coming weekend. Or the coming week as we look ahead. Lucas Oil, they're running tonight. High Limit, obviously the Lord we had talked. Lucas Oil Huset's. Arca Menards will also be in action at IRP. Looking down, Wissota late models are at Gondik Law. Tundra Super late models at Golden Sands for the Blue Knight 88. IRA sprint cars are at River Cities for the Buffalo Wild Wings Wing Night. Quite the quite the name there. USAC Silver Crown Salt City Speedway. Looking a little bit further down, World All Sprint Cars. Wissota late models on night 2 will head to Cedar Lake. So maybe potentially some guys get a little test and tune for the USA Nationals. Pretty cool little deal here. Track special at Jefferson. So they will have the Midwest Truck Series, but the Orange Blossom Twin 61 lap features for the super late models. They got quite an entry list for the super late models, so pretty racy little joint. So that'd be cool to see twin features for them guys. Outlaw Midgets, Spoon River. Looking down, XR Super Series kicks off a little bit of a stretch going to Clay County. So Formula One at Budapest, Cup Series at Brickyard as we had talked about, NTT IndyCar, Streets of Toronto. So that is your upcoming schedule for racing in the world of anything that races.
Should we do a fantasy check here?
Yeah, let's dive in. It's been a 2 weeks since we checked in. Just pulled up the standings here. Last 2 weeks. The Chicago Street Race.
Nightmare.
Our yeah. The old Jackman did something in his shorts you never want to do.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So go back to the Chicago Street Race. It was a tire changer with 182, 170 for me, 161 for Dietzo, 142 for Gasman's Girl. Sophie's pit picks at 134. Kurt Busch at 128. Pretty sure he didn't set a lineup. And Jackman Kellen at 122. So scary part is our tire changer seems to be on a heater. It's getting scary. And then this past week, our tire changer Cam takes the cake again, 239. Kellen bounces back, 232. Gasman's Girl at 228. Me at 219. Dietzo 183. Sophie's pit picks at 147. And Kurt Busch not setting his lineup again with 81. So, quick 2 week check-in. I feel like I've been firing on all cylinders, but every week I fire on all cylinders. The old tire changer's on just an absolute heater.
I am feeling really good coming to the end of the regular season.
Yeah, so
I got hammers when I want them.
Yeah, and I could not figure out how you beat me this past week. So I'm like, what did I not do that? I'm pretty sure
it's always the pickups.
Yeah, but we both got three
pick.
We both had 3 pick'ems, and I don't know, maybe it was just whatever. But anyways, overall standings, our tire changer is leading with 4103. I am in second, 3891. Kellen at 3712. Gasman's Girl at 3592. Dietzo at 3522. Sophie's pit picks at 3432, and Kurt Busch at 2900. So this whole group here, I was looking at this as we were talking. right from honestly top to bottom, a few bad weeks from somebody, and we could have a major shakeup.
It's not over.
Kellen, you're not far. You're 160 back on me. Gasman's girl's only back on Kellen, 112. Dietzo's 30 points
70.
back on Gasman's girl. Sophie's picks is right in this. I mean, Kellen went on the schneid there a couple weeks when he had that 97-point week at New Hampshire. And that was a 100-point swing for some of us. So
Yeah.
the tides can turn pretty quick in this. So
and we've got obviously an unknown in Indy coming up here, and of course we got Daytona coming up. So
yeah, it is coming
enough.
down to crunch time. And this is where we're going to find out who's got hammers, who's the hammer, and who's the nail.
All right.
So stay
You ready to go
tuned.
race picks?
Yeah, we got to do one last check in here on our Three Stones
race pick standings.
Three Stone standings. And we didn't pick Pocono, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think we just did that in the group chat.
I picked Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, Kel had Larson and I had Byron.
You got those points updated or no?
Yep, the whatever's in the table here is up to date.
All right, getting tired of the tire changer leading everything, but he is leading that as well. 760 points. I'm in second, 718, and Kellen is on a heater here as well at 656. So,
but he gets first pick at Indy.
Brad K.
Woo! All right.
2020 Brickyard results, and I picked the highest finishing current Cup driver.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with the low hanging fruit here. I'm gonna go with Larson. There's two guys for you, Cam, that I think are good picks.
So you all know who is going through my mind right now?
Keep your mouth shut. God damn it.
I'm gonna go William Byron.
Yeah, that was one of the two I was thinking of.
But dude, he's been kind of on the schneid lately, I feel like.
Who was the other?
Seabell, Christopher Bell.
Here were some options that were going through my mind. Ross Chastain, because he'll be blocked. He'll have that thing 6 lanes wide this weekend. Who was the other one? Anyways,
Could have gone with new track Joey. I know it's not a new track, but it's new for the car. Well, it's locked in. You're on Byron.
yeah, we're sticking to it. Yeah. Anyways, that wraps up a wild episode. We've been talking a lot. We had obviously a shortened episode last week, so we had a lot of ground cover, a lot of things to talk about. Chicago, Slinger Nationals, Pocono, Ricky Thornton Jr. and SSI, Hudson O'Neal, your local super late model check-in. I think we did a really good job of doing what we always do and keeping you on your toes and beat bopping around. So any final thoughts?
Big weekend coming up. A lot of big races.
Yep. I was just looking at Bobby Pierce door that was for sale that I certainly cannot afford.
Attaboy. Attaboy.
Yeah, it's one guy who's had a bunch of shit for trade that was Primo. But yeah, we covered everything. That's usually what we like to do. We like, you think you're on one track and we like to go off track and then come back to it and then go through the infield and find something else and maybe run over the infield tractor tire and back to the finish line.
We never end up on our lid though.
Nope. I was gonna say, with that being said, that is it for episode 42. Riding along with the Legacy Motor Club, John Hunter Nemechek on board cam. Hopefully it was a pretty clean run for us. kept it in one piece. Solid run, good finish, and overall solid points day for us. So as always, like, comment, subscribe, send this thing to your best friend and tell them to give it a listen. And we'll see y'all next week for episode 43.